Gatcombe Park is a very special place. It is the secret world of Princess Anne. Most people think that the most famous royal house in all of Britain would be a giant, shiny palace with guards in tall hats. But for Princess Anne, it is actually a very old farmhouse. It is the kind of house where you will find muddy boots sitting right by the back door because the people who live there are busy working outside. There is no big balcony for waving to thousands of people. There is no giant, fancy staircase made for wearing sparkly tiaras. Instead, it is a sturdy country house that was built a long, long time ago in the late 1700s. It sits in a beautiful area called Gloucestershire, which is full of quiet, green countryside. All around the house, there are rolling hills, many horses running in the grass, and every once in a while, you might see a very big and very expensive tractor driving by to help with the farm work. This farm is the place where the only daughter of the famous Queen Elizabeth II decided she wanted to live her real, everyday life. Instead of just going to parties or wearing crowns, Princess Anne chose to spend her time raising her children, running a farm that actually works for a living, and even holding world-class horse competitions right in her own backyard. Tonight, we are not going to visit a place like Buckingham Palace with its golden gates. Instead, we are going to travel up a long driveway made of crunchy gravel to see Gatcombe Park. We want to see how a woman who was born into a world of crowns and kings built something much harder to find. She built a normal, everyday life on royal land. It is a place where she can be herself without everyone watching her every move. Gatcombe Park is a massive piece of land. It covers 700 acres, which is like having hundreds and hundreds of football fields all put together. On this land, you will see many things like open fields, warm stables for horses, happy dogs running around, and very old grand trees that have been there for a century. There is also one very strong woman who never really wanted to live in a golden cage. A golden cage is a way of saying a life that looks pretty but makes you feel trapped. Gatcombe Park sits between two small villages in the southwest part of England. It is a very quiet corner of the countryside, but it also happens to be a place where many royals live. It is a neighborhood for some of the most famous people in the world, even if it just looks like a bunch of farms to everyone else. Just a few miles down the road from Princess Anne is a place called Highgrove House. That is the country home of her brother, King Charles III. He bought his house in 1980 because he wanted a place to rest that was just a short drive away from his sister's farm. For many years, another relative named Prince Michael of Kent lived nearby too. You are about to see inside one of the most private royal homes in all of Britain. This is a house that most tourists never get to see on a postcard or a TV show. Inside those stone walls lives Princess Anne. She is known as the Princess Royal. She is a very hard worker. Between the years 2002 and 2022, she did more than 11,000 official jobs for the royal family. That is more than any other royal person. But to understand why this farm fits her so well, we have to look back at a very different kind of royal love story from a long time ago. Gatcombe Park was not originally built for a princess. Its history goes all the way back to the 1770s. Back then, a man who became very rich by selling cloth decided to build a grand house on some old farmland. Later, in the early 1800s, the house was fixed up for a very famous man named David Ricardo, who was an expert with money. Now, let's jump forward in time over 100 years to the 1970s. England was changing, and the Queen's only daughter was in her 20s. Princess Anne was known for being very honest and funny. She was a serious horse rider and did not care much about the fancy, fairy tale life that many people expected her to lead. She fell in love with another horse rider named Captain Mark Phillips. They met at a party for people who love horses in 1968. They got engaged in 1973 and had a huge wedding at a place called Westminster Abbey. About 500 million people watched them on TV. They were known as the star horse-riding couple of the royal family. This is when Gatcombe Park comes into the story. It was like the most amazing wedding gift anyone could ever imagine. The couple spent a long time looking for a home to live in. They had looked at almost every house in the area, but they finally fell in love with Gatcombe. It was not perfect at first. It needed a lot of hard work to fix it up. They had to put in new wires for electricity, fix the pipes for water, and even patch up holes in the roof. But it had a lot of extra buildings, other small houses on the land, and even its own forest. In 1976, Queen Elizabeth II bought the whole estate. At the time, it was about 730 acres. She gave it to her daughter and her new son-in-law as a present. No one knows exactly how much it cost, but people think it was between $900,000 and over $1 million back then. In today's money, that would be like spending $9 million. The Queen wanted Anne to have a quiet place where she could be away from photographers and the public. She also wanted them to have plenty of room for their horses, because both Anne and Mark were world-class athletes in horse riding. The house was built using a special kind of yellow stone called Bath stone. It looks very classic and pretty with big windows and a grand front porch with tall columns. The royal family paid to fix everything up and make the house look nice. They added big stables for the horses and something very useful, a private landing strip for small airplanes. By the end of 1977, Princess Anne and Mark Phillips moved in. The idea was very simple, just like Anne herself. This house would not be a showy palace. It would be a working home. It was a place to raise their children, breed horses, run a farm, and still be close enough to London. If she needed to go to work, a helicopter could pick her up in the morning and bring her back in time to feed her dogs in the evening. Even though it looks like a quiet farm, having its own landing strip is a big bonus. It is not like a big airport. It is just a quiet place where small planes can land so she can travel quickly without being seen. For a royal person with a very busy schedule, this is very smart. She can wear her muddy farm boots 1 minute and then be in London for a fancy meeting the next minute without sitting in traffic for hours. A year after they moved in, they bought even more land next door called Aston Farm. This gave the family even more privacy. Even after Anne and Mark got divorced, Mark lived at the farm next door for a while before moving to America. The main house itself is not a tiny cottage. It has 5 big bedrooms for the family and even more rooms for guests. It has 4 living rooms, a library full of books, a room for playing games, and a giant room made of glass called a conservatory. This glass room looks out over the green grass and the hundreds of acres of beautiful countryside. Inside the house, the furniture and decorations are famous for being very practical. One magazine said it was a relaxed country style, where the dogs and horses are more important than fancy things. Unlike her nephew Prince William or his wife Catherine, Princess Anne does not share her private life on the internet. She does not post pictures of her house on Instagram. The few times we have seen inside her home are very rare. She treats Gatcombe Park as her own private world where she can truly be herself. During the years when everyone had to stay home because of the virus, Princess Anne accidentally became very famous online for something simple. A photo was shared of her and her husband, Sir Timothy Lawrence, sitting in their living room. In the photo, they were watching a rugby game on TV to cheer for Scotland. People were surprised because the room looked so normal. It had a regular television, shelves full of books and decorations, a bed for a dog on the floor, and family photos everywhere. It did not look like a palace. It looked like a cozy home where people actually live. The decorations are traditional and comfortable. There are lots of wood-covered walls and old furniture that looks like it has been there for a long time. It is the opposite of the grand, shiny palaces we usually see. You can see that Anne and her husband love the water and horses because there are many pictures of boats and horses on the walls. Princess Anne even said she didn't want to borrow fancy art from the Queen's collection because she wanted the house to suit her own taste. During the time when everyone was staying home, Princess Anne talked about how she went for horse rides across her land almost every day. Sometimes her granddaughters would come over and ride their little ponies with her. Princess Anne is a very hands-on grandmother, which means she likes to be right there playing and helping. She loves watching her grandkids ride in small competitions and grow up around animals. One time, someone gave her a tiny apron made for a child. She made a joke that it was way too small for her, but it would be perfect for her grandkids because they all like to cook. So, somewhere inside that big house, there are not just horses and hay, but also the smell of fresh cookies and pies being made by children. Even though it is cozy, Gatcombe Park is also a place where a lot of work happens. Princess Anne is known as one of the hardest working members of the royal family for a good reason. She is the leader of more than 300 different groups and charities. She helps people who take care of the sick, works for women's health, and even helps make sure ships are safe around the world. She spent many years as the president of Save the Children and was even nominated for a very special prize called the Nobel Peace Prize in 1990. Gatcombe is where she gets ready for all that hard work and where she goes to rest when she is tired. It is a working estate, which means they raise animals and grow food there. Princess Anne believes the farm should make its own money to pay for itself. She loves animals just like her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who was famous for having many corgi dogs. Princess Anne's farm is the perfect place for her English bull terriers and all of her horses. She also has sheep, pigs, chickens, and cows on her land. She has said before how lucky she feels to spend so much time in the beautiful countryside. The farm is most famous for the Gatcombe horse trials. This is a very big event that has been happening for about 40 years. Every August, the quiet fields turn into a world-class course for jumping horses. Up to 40,000 people come to watch Olympic riders jump over big fences on the hills. Princess Anne's daughter, Zara, grew up on this farm and became an Olympic medal winner. Zara once said that the horse jumping course at Gatcombe feels like a roller coaster. You have to ride very fast, turn down steep hills, and then jump back up. It is very exciting but also very hard work for the horse and the rider. In recent years, it has become expensive to hold such a big party, so some events were cancelled. However, Gatcombe still opens its gates for smaller horse shows and even a big food festival. The food festival lasts for 2 days and brings in the best food and drinks from the local area. People walk around tasting cheese, gin, and bread. Some of the food even comes directly from the Gatcombe farm. There are even famous chefs who show people how to cook delicious meals. So the farm has 2 different speeds. Most days, it is a quiet place with tractors and dogs where a princess can just be a normal person. But on some weekends, it is full of cameras, crowds, and the sound of thundering horse hooves. On those days, you might see Anne wearing a simple outdoor jacket, watching every single horse jump with very sharp eyes. Over many years, Gatcombe has also become a place for the whole family to live together. Today, Princess Anne and her husband live in the main house. Her daughter, Zara, and her husband, Mike, live in a big house on the same land called Aston Farm. They have 3 children who get to grow up near their grandmother. It is like a small neighborhood just for their family. Zara's home is a very large farmhouse with 7 bedrooms and big lawns for the kids to play on. Their life is simple and focused on family and being outside. This was all a choice made by Princess Anne. When her children were born, the Queen offered to give them special royal titles like Prince or Princess, but Anne said no. She wanted her children to grow up feeling free. She wanted them to have normal jobs and normal lives without everyone following them around. Because of that, Zara and her brother Peter grew up more like country kids than palace kids. They learned how to work hard and be brave. Prince William and Prince Harry even came to this farm to learn how to ride horses when they were little boys. One of the most fun parts of the farm is a place called the Party Barn. It is an old barn that was changed into a place for fun gatherings. It has a big kitchen, a place to sit, and even a giant screen for watching movies or sports. It is the perfect spot for family birthdays or for having friends over to watch a rugby game. This whole place shows exactly what Princess Anne is like. She is a very direct and practical person who does not like a lot of fuss. She even knows how to drive a huge truck and once joked that she would be happy to do that for a job. She usually does her own hair and makeup and often drives herself to her work meetings. Sometimes she even gets speeding tickets because she is in a hurry. Princess Anne has a special rule when she meets people. She doesn't usually shake hands. She says that if you start shaking hands, you have to shake everyone's hand and that would take forever. Her house is just like her. It is nice, but it is not too fancy or shiny. Inside, the kitchen looks like an old-fashioned room that was built to feed a lot of hungry people. It is not a place for fancy state dinners with gold plates. It is a place for family dinners and for storing muddy boots. While most people think a royal life is all about marble floors and gold mirrors, the Princess Royal lives in a stone house on a hill. Her office is not in a noisy city. It is down a quiet country lane where cows walk around in the summer. A normal day for Princess Anne starts with a walk or a horse ride to check on her animals. Then she does a lot of paperwork and makes phone calls to help her charities. After that, she might travel to London or another city for her royal jobs. But in the evening, she always comes back home to Gatcombe. She spends time with her dogs, her horses, and her family. Gatcombe is the place that keeps her steady. However, one summer evening in 2024, everything changed. In the one place where she was supposed to be the safest, something went very wrong. Princess Anne was out on her land when she got hurt. She is in her 70s now, but she was still out working and visiting her animals. She later said that she remembers going to see her chickens, but after that she can't remember anything at all. Doctors believe she was hit by a horse, possibly in the head or the legs. It was a very scary moment. Her staff had to call for help, and a helicopter came to take her to the hospital. She had a concussion, which is a brain injury, and had to stay in the hospital for 5 nights. For a few days, the woman who never misses work had to cancel everything. She couldn't go on a trip to Canada that she had planned. For the first time in a long time, the royal family's schedule had a big empty space where Anne's name should have been. Everyone was worried about her. Few months later, in early 2025, Princess Anne went back to the hospital. But this time, she wasn't there as a patient. She went there to say thank you to the doctors and nurses who took care of her. She made a joke that not remembering the accident was actually a good thing, because she didn't have to remember the scary parts. She also said that the accident made her realize how quickly life can change. It taught her to enjoy every single day and treat it like a special bonus gift. But she also made it clear that she is not going to stop working. She joked that she can't really retire because there is always more work to be done for the people of Britain. That is a very moving thing to think about. If you had the choice, would you pick a shiny palace or a cozy, slightly messy farm? Would you want your children and grandchildren living just a short walk away from you? We have explored the secret world of Gatcombe Park tonight, and it shows us that there is a human story behind every royal person. Even behind the big stone walls and the royal titles, there is a kitchen, a back door, and a family trying to live a good life. Princess Anne found her happiness in the mud, the horses, and the quiet hills of her home. It is a place where she can be a princess, a farmer, and a grandmother all at the same time. If you like hearing these stories about how royals really live, please stay with us and subscribe for more.